Hello, I'm Michelle Martinez Reyes, Partner and Chief Marketing Officer at Latin Business Today. As small businesses continue to face the challenges of the COVID 19 health crisis, Latin Biz Today and Popular Bank have partnered up to bring you Driving Success Through the Pandemic, a 9-part discussion series to discuss some of the most pressing issues facing small business owners today. Popular Bank's Chief Operating Officer Manuel Chinea and Latin Biz Today's Corporate and Advisory Board member Eli Mendoza recently sat down to discuss some of the immediate challenges and opportunities small businesses are navigating. In this first stage, we'll cover ensuring liquidity and an unstable economic landscape, seeking and procuring emergency funding in the face of revenue losses and heightened expenses, navigating the Small Business Administration PPP loan forgiveness program. Kicking off stage one, session one, ensuring liquidity amid an unstable economic environment.
Just like you would in your own personal finances, when the situation becomes a little more certain and all of a sudden your income or revenue is at risk, you start looking for ways to save and cut back in expenses and try to figure out ways that you can do more with less. So similarly, for small businesses, they have to do the same thing. They have to look at their operations. Are there things that they can do without in this time? I think that through the pandemic, a lot of us, and most of us, have been working many times remotely, had to kind of adapt and do things very differently. In the process, we noticed that we had an opportunity to notice that a lot of things that we were doing and carrying, expenses that we were carrying, that all of a sudden we've realized that perhaps are not so needed. So it's an opportunity for small businesses to look at those and say, do we really need this to continue operating? And that's a quick way for you to start, shoring up your liquidity. Obviously, there's other things and those tend to be the easier things, and variable expenses such as travel and entertainment if you were entertaining clients, and subscriptions and dues and this and that. You can look at those things over time, for instance, but then you also need to look at your cost structure, the more fixed costs associated to your operation. Is there a chance to go back to and talk to the landlord to try to see if you can negotiate some type of reduction in your occupancy? Is if you own your own property, is there a way, an opportunity to refinance your property? And sadly, also you have to take a look at whether you need to streamline the operations and perhaps operate with fewer employees. Every single step you take there obviously preserves liquidity for the business and allows you to continue to operate. And those are very short-term things that you can do. Obviously, we'll be talking about other sources of liquidity for the business, but at least immediately, those are things that businesses can start doing on their own and improving their own sources of funds. So I don't know, what do you think, Eli? What are your thoughts in that particular area?
Look, I think you hit on very, very important points with respect to the cost structure of a business and the opportunity that you have to evaluate all these different elements of what you've been spending on and looking to tighten the belt, so to speak. Liquidity, as we mentioned earlier, it's incredibly important. That's the lifeblood of your business, and that's what will help you keep you going through a crisis and all of the implications that are coming from it. So I think you're right. Cost structure and easy cost structure assessment and reductions are very much within the reach of what a business can do, and within the concepts that we all use on a daily basis to manage our own lives. I think the important thing is also, as you're looking to implement these plans, is first thing is to understand where you really are, right? And back to your analogy of your personal life, you have to know what's in the bank, right? How much money do you actually have? And what do you realistically think that will sustain you, right? When you actually do all the cost cutting or you do all the efficiency, what else can you bring to the bank account, and how long will that last you? There are that calculation, right? Again, very important element, because it's going to determine what you can do as you start to think about coming out the other side of the crisis. If you're running a business, other levers that you can use to improve potentially your liquidity position outside of looking for more money are things like the interactions that you have with your customers and your suppliers. First thing you probably have to understand is that there's many customers that you have that are in the same situation that you are, that are going to be looking to manage their outflow to you. And so it's important to realize that, to understand that it's not personal, but from their perspective, it's a business decision they have to make. And you have to be very engaging and be very willing to work with them so that if folks owe you money, you can in balance between your needs and their needs, but keep them engaged, keep them as a long-term customer, and keep them paying, right? As opposed to taking it personally and battling it out with them for something that you might get short-term, but will compromise you in the long term. And then you turn around and you talk to your suppliers strategically, and you say, okay, look, I'm running a business. I need to ensure that I am a long-term customer of yours. And with this hat of optimization and efficiency on cost, you need to be a little bit brave about talking to your suppliers and asking for ways that you can work with them to perhaps make the payment load a little lighter over the course of the next 6 to 12 months. And I think they'll appreciate, your willingness to have that conversation and your willingness to try to stay as an active business that will ultimately serve them well as customers over the long term. So managing payables, managing receivables, definitely sources of cash that you've earned, right, that you can have access to without looking outside for a bank or for money to come in through equity.
And I think you bring a very, very compelling point, which is in moments like this is a tremendous opportunity to really strengthen the relationships with your customers and your suppliers. And because I think that everybody is going through this. So I think that people would appreciate you working with them. And I think that suppliers, if they know, if they appreciate your relationship and they also think long-term, they might, should be willing to work with you, because they know that, hey, if I help them now in their moment of need, I'm going to strengthen the relationship and they're going to be a customer for many years to come. So, and the same applies to the small business customers. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity. And likewise, if you don't show that flexibility, that willingness to work with people, it will, in the short term, might help you shore up or preserve liquidity, but in the long term, might hurt your business, because these people at some point, once the pandemic and the crisis is over, they're going to remember that you were not willing to work with them. And as a result, you would have hurt your brand and your reputation and ultimately some clients.
No, totally agree, and great points about relationships. And, those relationships, as we'll talk about later, apply to your sources of capital, your banks, right, and your partners as well. But look, I think what we've said, right, is, hey, take stock of where you are, right? First thing is understand how much money is in the bank, right? Do a little belt tightening to try to get more.
Which, by the way, highlights the importance of really knowing your numbers, really being on top of your reporting, your financial reporting. That speaks to how important it is to have very strong, robust financials for your business, and really knowing your business very well and knowing your numbers. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, and that's a great point too. I think there's a lot of folks that are afraid. Looking at numbers in this time that we are now, it's scary, right? Because it is a reflection of the environment and how it's impacting your business. But you've got to, you've got to take a look, right? And you have to understand that it's a starting point. And what should make you feel comfortable is that, as Manuel has said, and we touched on, there are ways to improve your position. There are ways and the things that you do through belt tightening that will help. There are ways and the things that you do through managing the payables and the receivables that will help. But it's important for you to have that baseline understanding of where you are, because it gets you to a place where you can then honestly assess what you can do to improve that, but also how you need to prepare for when things are over and you're back in business. You'll learn to appreciate the fact that you do need relationships, that you may have to cut certain activities, but if you cut all of them, it really hurts your business, and that actually may not allow you to come back. So those decisions need to be made, strategic decisions need to be made in this financial context, and having a true understanding of where you are is really the only way that you can start to do that.
Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned